G'day champions, how the flippin' heck are ya? This one we had to sort of just get stuck into, and it's now done, or more or less done. A few little bits and pieces left to do, but it's an Eminar. Now this is a little bit difficult to find info on. I couldn't find a schematic anywhere, so I got Dad traced it out for us, and Dad did the majority of the work because I was getting ready for a wedding, which was very fun, trust me. So this was a brand that was very prominent in Australia before we were able to import Marshall, Vox, Fender, and then they sort of went by the wayside as soon as that was possible. Now they're pretty well built amps, but there's a lot of sort of weirdness about them. This is actually one of the more normal ones. So here you can see it's got like a normal channel, similar to the Fenders of the era. And then it's got a tremolo channel and a presence control there. The tremolo is foot switchable. When there's no foot switch plugged in, you just use that switch there to turn it on or off from the front panel. And it's got a light there which actually flashes in time with it, which is kind of cool. That's a neon, just in series with the opto neon inside the, well, in the actual tremolo circuit. It's got usual power and standby, an LED for each one, which is nice. That standby LED stays on as long as there's charge, so it's also a little bit of a high voltage warning indicator. So the first thing you might notice is there's two transformers here. It's not a stereo amplifier. They're actually power transformers in parallel to meet the required current, which is not something you see every day. But again, this chassis is made for multiple versions. I've put plugs over the spare Novel sockets there, the socket cutouts, just to prevent fingers from meeting high voltage. And I'm going to make some little cover plates to cover these, which were never covered from the factory, but these days we probably should sort of take care of that kind of stuff because there is high tension nearby. So the preamp consists of three 12AX7s, and then you've got a 12AU7 phase inverter down there. These are the new 6L6s we've put in. They're the Tube Amp Dr. Red Bass series. And the output transformer. So let's flip her open and have a look at the guts. Now this is after the work's been completed, so we changed all those sockets there, we rejigged the bias circuit. These two resistors down here were the heater balance resistors. They were absolutely evaporated and left a big black stain on that phenolic board underneath, which has all been cleaned off now. We've raised them off the board, so if they were ever to get, flamed up ever again, although these are fusible resistors we've put in, so they're designed to go open circuit more effectively. We've lifted them off the board, so there's less of a chance of them burning that phenolic board in the future. So here you can see the two transformers in parallel there. They appear to be identical transformers. And down here you got your new F&T filter caps down there with some new droppers that had drifted. This looks like it previously had a choke. I did give the option of replacing that choke if it was open circuit. It doesn't appear to be. Well, a test's okay. But the customer was very specific that he loves the sound of this amp as is, so that could affect the sort of responsiveness of the amp, if that's a word. So we decided to leave it out in order to try and preserve the tone of this thing as he knows it, whether or not it be original. We could possibly put that back in circuit in the future if we wanted to, just replacing that wire wound resistor there, the 820 ohm 5 watt. But yeah, I'll leave that up to him, see how he likes it. So we've gone through, we've done a full recap, changed all the electrolytics, not just the power supply ones, as a lot of techs seem to disregard the fact that bypass caps are electrolytic capacitors, and they do dry out as well. You can see the caps there for the unused sockets. So we replaced all the sockets for the 6L6s. The existing ones had some tracking. Someone had attempted to dig that out, but that possibly is what was causing the short to the heaters. and blowing those heater balance resistors open circuit. So like you can see all the discoloration there and the scraping attempts and digging out stuff and whatever. It just replaced the bloody thing, so we changed them out. Had to drill out the rivets because of course they're riveted, but that one was already replaced because the other three were like this. They could have tracking as well, but it's kind of hard to tell with black. Could have been some contamination that triggered that, but anyway, it's got 4 new sockets now, all good. So the tremolo speed potentiometer was previously just a 1 meg. We changed it with a 3 meg reverse audio as per the Fender style circuits, because it's a pretty similar circuit in this one. And that gave a much more usable range. Previously only sort of half the pot's travel was effective, and it was very abrupt and not very intuitive across the range of that pot travel with respect to the speed that it was giving you. So now it's very, very even, and it's a very nice range. It's exactly what you'd want out of this thing. So just by changing that one pot. Sorry, I misspoke before. I wasn't mistaken, I just misspoke. So this was a 3 meg speed pot for the tremolo, but it wasn't reverse audio, it was just audio. So that was why it was pretty non-linear to use. Whereas now it's a lot more linear in its sort of effect as you travel through the pot's travel. Man, I really should script these things a bit better. Now, one thing we're yet to do, a lot of these grounds are sourced through the chassis. Being a not very high gain amp, they sort of get away with it. I'm going to go through and put tooth washers on at least the sockets where they're not present. I think the new ones we've put them in already, just to make sure that we've got a solid ground everywhere. We've got some 1K screen grid resistors in there now where there were 100 ohm before. That should help these 6L6s live a little longer if they're getting driven hard. This guy was at pains to tell me that he loves cranking it all the way up, and power to him. Now the amp will be capable of doing that without destroying the output valves. We checked all the film caps. These are actually in pretty good nick. There's no sort of cracks in the housing there like we got on that Bassmaster golden tone thing the other week. So we tested for leakage and there's no leakage there, so they stayed in. And as you see, the new Tube Amp Doctor bypass caps down there. All the other resistors were checked for drift and were still within tolerance, so we left them in. You can see the opto there from the tremolo. It's already got heat shrink on it. The other one that we have here, we've got another Eminar over here. It doesn't have heat shrink, so we might put some heat shrink on that one. Otherwise you've got to make the thing airtight, light tight I should say. These do go in a cabinet. The customer does have the cabinet at home. He just brought these chassis in bare, but I might ask him if he wants. He's poured a fair bit of money in this rebuild, so I might ask if he wants to bring the cabinet in. I'll load the chassis in there for him and just check everything, maybe do some shielding or that kind of thing. Now we replaced the fuse holder because it was this cardboard thing that was, well, I didn't trust it, so we changed that out, put a new modern plastic one in. The bulging connector that was previously for the power, that's already been disconnected by someone else. We just put some new screws on there to hold it in a bit better, just to block the hole. Probably could have removed it entirely, but and there's the new mains lead on the new strain relief gland there. So that goes to the new safety plug, molded to be watertight, so that's cool. I try to chuck these ones on everything that's old school. Often they've got a plug that's been reconnected, rejigged 3 or 4 times over its life, and it's not looking the greatest, so instead of doing that yet again, I just chuck a new lead on there. And you can see down here the initials of the builder, RU and 7771, which was, I guess, the manufacture date. So there's the box of the old crap to be returned to the customer for old time's sake. So these shields here were pretty chewed up. They weren't really holding on. Someone's tried to reuse them and misalign them and stuff, I think, and they've just been munched up. So we replaced them. That's the old can caps which we replaced with F&Ts. I think we stepped up from 24 to 30, 33, whatever it is. 500 volts still. And chucked another one in there. So we had 3 sections per cap and 2 caps. So we used 3 2-section caps and then rewired it to suit. So now these caps are much more common. They'll be replaceable in the future because that's what's on all the Marshall stuff. And there was what's left of the old heater balance resistors. Yeah, better check them first, you know, don't just replace stuff willy-nilly, they might still be good. There was just a lot of melted and excess wire and stuff that we removed too. We put some Teflon stuff back in, and some PVC jacketed stuff as well, depending on where it was. And the blown fuse down there that it came with, blown in a big way, probably because either that looked like a dead short, so I reckon it was probably one of the valves was dead. But yeah, that tracking on that valve socket probably didn't help. And then all the resistors that either had 2 short leads after rejigging the capacitor configuration from 2 3-section caps to 3 2-section caps, or they were just drifted in value, possibly from the default. And all the old axial electrolytics down there, so we just return everything to the customer. That jack has been soaked with WD-40 or something, but it had lost its shorting jack contact, so the tremolo was dropping in and out as a result, and you just touch that and it would drop in and out. Retensioning them never really works properly. You can see someone's had a go at it here. That shorting contact is a bit mangled, but it's easy to just replace the thing with a new switchcraft. Those nuts suck anyway. So jobs like this do take a long time, tracing all this stuff out, and they're often kind of weird circuits, so there'll be stuff that doesn't really make sense after looking at, you know, your Fender and Marshall designs for many years. These were designed by probably RF guys. They had all the principles right, but maybe not the black magic that Leo and the lads had. So tracing all of these out probably took the majority of a day between the 2 units, and you kind of have to charge for that. But what I'm going to do is make those schematics public. We're going to draw them up nice in KiCad, however you want to say it, and we'll chuck them all up, if they'll have them, on the Oz Guitar Amps forum, webpage, ozvalveamps.org, and we'll put them under the Eminars section. And hopefully, considering that these 2 amps have almost the same circuit, they'll probably be applicable pretty closely to many of their different models of amp. So check that site out too. It's an awesome site, and I hope it stays up for a long time. I think the guy that instigated it has passed away, which is sad, because it's a very nice website. It's old school, it's free of bloat, no ads. It's a very nice site, so hopefully whoever has the reins on it now keeps it up for a very long time, because it's a nice little historical page. So that's that one. We'll put that aside. I'll start working on the next one, and you'll see some video from that one soon. We'll do a sound test of both of them, maybe compare what they sound like next to each other. But they're essentially the same circuit with a slightly different power supply, as you'll see when we've published this schematic that we traced out, which did take almost a day to do in completion for both of them.